Did that ever change about you? Like once you went from middle school to high school?
No. So in high school, like my 8th grade is whenever things started, I guess, changing or becoming difficult for me or something. Because right there is whenever my history teacher, I was struggling, I guess, in the class, and he brought my parents in, and he said that Mr. Garza said that if I didn't change, that I wasn't gonna do anything in life, that I wasn't gonna amount to anything. And I remember I was sitting in the library, which was the same place that I would gather with the student council to do everything with the teachers there. The rest of my life, man, this guy's been someone, man, that I have. It's interesting, right? Because he's been the one that's motivated me to do everything that I accomplished, but it was always out of spite on my part. I always wanted to prove to him, and he doesn't even know this, freaking 8th grade, bro. Here I am, like, my kids have already gone through high school and they're in college now, and here I am still trying to prove this 8th grade
history teacher
wrong.
How did your parents react when they had that conversation?
Well,
the world is shaking.
The world is spinning, bro.
All right, here we go. What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Brothers from Another Mother, where we talk about the trials and tribulations in everyday entrepreneurship. For those who don't know me, my name is Alex Maldonado.
And I'm Rene Atkinson.
And today, just like every other day, is going to be special because I want to do you the favor of what you did for me this last episode that we shot, just you and I. And you asked me some questions and you took me back to, times in my life that were impactful. And I think we did that in the first episode.
Yeah. But
we were still going through the trials and tribulations of podcasting. So the audio wasn't all there.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, jump on here and before you go on this event, just have a conversation, man.
Yeah.
And take a deeper dive into who, Rene Atkinson really is. So if you allow me to, let's take a deep dive, man.
All right. Let's see how this is going to go.
Are you nervous or are you excited?
I'm so excited.
All right. So I always like to go back to when I was about 13.
Mm-hmm.
But if people were to, let's say your friends from, back in middle school, were to see you today, what would be their impression? Who were you back then, being around them, and what would be their impression if they were to see you today?
In middle school, they would probably say that that this is exactly who they thought that I would be. Because in middle school, I was the rat. I was the safety patrol, walking around the halls in my little vest.
Oh man, that's so funny.
And then I was part of the student council, so there I was talking to the teachers and enjoying donuts with the teachers as they asked me questions about what they thought they could improve or how they could relate better to the students. And so I think that they would probably say, yeah, for sure. This is exactly where
they could see that.
Yeah.
So that was in middle school, right?
Yep.
You were I remember those too. I remember them since fucking elementary, man.
Yeah.
The hall monitors or whatever they would call them. They didn't have a vest. They had like this little, just like a, ¿cómo se llama?
Like a sash.
Yeah, or something like that.
Okay.
It was reflective.
Yeah.
And it would be, and when you saw them, you're like, oh man, they're gonna stay away. You
No,
know?
we had the full on vest. You know, the chartreuse green or yellow, whatever. An orange vest, and as a matter of fact, it had like a little badge that said like safety patrol.
And did you do that? What, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade or what?
I think it was maybe. Yeah, I think it might have been 6th, 7th, and 8th. Yeah.
Do you think anything about your childhood before you got to middle school? Anything, about your parents kind of drove you to be that way, or what was it that kind of developed that passion of being, a patrol per se?
It's strange because my dad was a firefighter, so there was really no example of someone in law enforcement. So not really sure where that came from. But I enjoyed it. It was neat. At the time, I never thought of it as a bad thing for the school, like as a bad thing for the rest of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that, hey, that's trouble. You're doing something wrong. Like, there's no need for you to step on the line that goes, like, I remember this vividly. There's no need to like be stepping on the line that goes to the water fountain and you just tore it. No, you need to go to the office.
So that was the kind of stuff you were calling out.
Yeah.
Man.
So, and then I think that was like the only time that I remember that something actually happened.
Okay.
And there I was, like, telling somebody that this person had done that.
Now, most of the kids that you went to middle school with
Mm-hmm.
are the same kids that you went to high school with?
The majority.
Okay.
Yeah, because so the town that I come from is like, I think it was something like 3,400 people. Like, it's really small.
Wow.
And so it was, yeah, like you knew everyone from elementary, and then elementary would go on to middle school, and then middle school to high school, and then you remember like what that kid was, in elementary, and when the girls were trying to do a penny drop off of the monkey bars, that person was the one that knocked off their freaking feet or something,
Yeah.
And then you're like, man, look what you're doing now. And so, yeah, we were really, really, really tight. So, yeah, the guys that I hung out with in middle school and elementary, actually, there's only a couple that I still interact with that I knew from elementary school. But, yeah, we were a really tight group.
Okay. And did that ever change about you? Like, once you went from middle school to high school, that patrol sense, did that ever change, or were you always that way even through high school?
No. So in high school, like my 8th grade is whenever things started, I guess, changing or becoming difficult for me or something, because right there is whenever I want to say it was history. My history teacher, I was struggling, I guess, in the class, and he brought my parents in, and he said that Mr. Garza said that if I didn't change, that I wasn't gonna do anything in life, that I wasn't gonna amount to anything. And I remember I was sitting in the library, which was the same place that I would gather with the student council, to do everything with the teachers there. And so, you know, the rest of my life, man, this guy's been someone, man, that I have, it's interesting, right? Because he's been the one that's motivated me to do everything that I've accomplished, but it was always out of spite on my part.
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to prove to him, and he doesn't even know this, you know, freaking 8th grade, bro. Here I am, like, you know, my kids have already gone through high school and they're in college now, and here I am still trying to prove this 8th grade
history teacher
wrong.
How did your parents react when they had that conversation?
Well, my parents wouldn't say much when we were in what is it called, parent teacher conference or whatever, or open house.
Yeah.
When they were there, they really never said very much. They would look at me, and I could tell from my dad's look immediately that I was in trouble. And so that was really it.
But did a conversation ever happen,
no,
like even at home?
No, but because I think it was more of like my mom just after that worrying, and so it just, and since they already had trouble with me waking up in the mornings, they probably felt that it was exactly what was going to happen.
So do you think at that point they kind of just like gave up on you, or what?
Negative. No, definitely didn't give up on me by no means, but they were, it was more of a thing now that my mom had to get me to school, had to wake me up. You know, it's like, oh, no, porque, you know, he's going to do horrible. He's not doing good. He's going to go down the wrong path and so forth. And that was really it would have been very easy to do, because everything was present, you know, even in, maybe not so much in middle school, but maybe already in middle school, where, you know, it was already a thing during the time that like marijuana was already around, papas were already around, or rochas or whatever they want to call them, were already around. So the downers, cocaine wasn't around till high school. That's whenever, you know, you started hearing more about it. But in that area, and especially living down in South Texas or anywhere along the border now, I guess it doesn't even matter, but it's all so common anywhere.
Yeah.
But I mean, in high school, it became more and more just not accepted, just known. Like it was around. And fortunately, though, because of mariachi or because of sports, that for some reason the guys that I hung out with, they were never really big on drinking. It was more about going to quinceañeras and playing sports, going fishing. So that's why right now, like, I'm big into that. In children, there's a chapter of Fishing's Future,
yeah,
that I have here in El Paso, that provides fishing for children. So the only way that I'm able to put an event is if the father and the child are able to attend.
Yeah.
If it's not just the child,
yeah,
it's not. So they both got to be there. Either parent, but the parent has to be there, because that's what it's about. It's about building that bond. So yeah, it's, you know, fishing was big, hunting was big for us. So there really wasn't the whole getting drunk and all that stuff.
Now you do talk about, I've heard you talk in the past about, you know, the time you got to spend with your dad.
Mm-hmm.
And what would really excite you is when he would pick you up from school.
Yeah.
And you saw the truck pull up.
Yeah.
And you could see that the fishing rods were in the back.
Yeah.
Or you would go and peek. And
Yes.
if you saw him, you know, it was time to go fish. And that would really excite you. So right now you talk about, you know, what you do with the father-son
Yeah.
event. Do you think that plays a big role in why, because you could do anything else.
Yeah.
You could probably take them hiking. You can probably take them hunting.
Yeah.
But why fishing?
Because for me, it's, in hiking, yes, you can spend time together. The thing is, most of the time that you spend in hiking is hiking, and you're enjoying nature, sure, but usually it's one person in front, one person in the back. You're not really necessarily having a conversation. You're either trying to catch your breath or you're looking around and enjoying the view. In hunting, if we do the opposite, you don't talk at all because we're trying to wait for something to show up. So in fishing, though, man, it's just the rod. If you put them in a reel holder, you're just sitting side by side. There's so much time to talk.
Is that what you would do with your dad during that time?
Yeah, man. Yeah. We would go down to the port, and during drum season, which was during the winter times, and my dad would take 7 rods or 10 rods or something like that, and it was always so I don't know, just so nice to see that my dad would cast the rod and I could never cast as far as my dad could, and so he was like a hero because of how strong he was. So it was really neat. So for me, those times were really special. And there was just something about, I guess it was something nowadays for me, it's just something therapeutic about being on the water and seeing the waves and seeing them crash, or hearing the waves crash along the beach. Even if you go to Elephant Butte that we have here in New Mexico, you still hear those little waves crashing at night. Yeah. So it's just always been really special.
Is there anything he ever said to you at any given point during those times when you went out fishing that you remember that has impacted your life now as an adult? Or was it more just spending that time?
Yeah, it was more about just spending the time, if there was nothing going on, then he would grab the 22, and there was always a hill nearby, and we would put a soda can, and then he would be a ver si le puedes pegar, so we'd be there and we'd be shooting at it, and it was always really nice.
So would you agree that something I talked about the last time is that 20% of the communication, which is actual verbal communication, doesn't even matter. It's actually the 80% that's nonverbal, which, as I hear you talk about him casting the line or pulling out the 22, this is all nonverbal communication that had a huge impact and in who you are and how you view your father now as you're grown. So has that, thinking about that, has that played a role now in, without you even realizing, how you are or how you show up as a father for your kids?
Yeah, it's played a huge role. I can show you picture after picture of just him shaping me to be the person that I am right now. I'll take my kids fishing, and there I am. The kids become kind of independent at a very young age, especially boys, and it almost seems like they want to do that from almost year one. And so I think the kids were maybe 2, maybe 3, and we'd be there next to the lake in Ruidoso, and they didn't want me casting the rod anymore for them. I want to cast it, and it land in the grass or whatever. Uriah was actually really good at casting, and it actually, it's funny because I'm still used to the way we fish in South Texas, where you're wanting to land in the middle of wherever you're at. You know, if it's the ocean, you gotta go as far as you possibly can. If we're, you know, in a lake, let's right to the middle, you know. And so he casts and it lands like 10 feet. You know, he's casting those little Snoopy rods or whatever, and Lil Zepco push buttons and casts out, and it goes like 10 feet. But it was the perfect place to be, you know. Here's the lake's full of fishermen, and here my kids are both catching trout after trout after trout, and they were just casting like 7-10 feet out. Wow. And it was beautiful. But I was able to just sit back on the bank and just watch them do it, you know. So it was pretty awesome.
So let's go back to your sophomore year in high school. I'm assuming you spent a lot of time at home with mom.
Yeah.
Dad, you told me, had multiple jobs, right? Yeah, like 3 jobs.
Yeah.
So, you know, sophomore year of high school, you've already been over that hump where you're now, you know, you're not a freshman, but you're not a senior. You know, you're a sophomore in high school. And you're obviously, you know, spending a lot of time with mom at home. And she's now having to deal, you know, with a young man who's going through a transition in life, where now we go from, you know, she saw you go from being a newborn baby to now being a young boy. And then now from young boy, you know, we're going to this young adult or teenager. How were those times at home with mom?
They were good. I really didn't spend much time at home during that time, only because there was practice after school, and then we'd go to Whataburger, go somewhere, or go to a tocada, or we'd do something. And if we're talking about like my sophomore year, which was in reality my 3rd year, because my freshman year I ended up failing that year because I wouldn't make it on time to school. So every time I arrived, it was tardy. The tardies became absences, and you
lost credit.
I ended up having to stay there in my freshman year. So when I finally made it to my sophomore year, and all my friends were already juniors, and so yeah, but the time that I did spend with my mom was amazing, man. My mom, everything that you expect of the, you know, the more traditional, you know, older mother, where, you know, I mean, her way of showing the love was through service, 100%, where, you know, we didn't have, well, the house still doesn't have insulation. Winters were cold. The floor is a wood floor. There's no insulation in the walls. Like several times we were so close to getting I guess exhaust poisoning because of the heaters that we had in the house. They were gas heaters, and so I remember my eyes burning so bad because of how much gas was inside the house. And so the house, you know, would be cold. The shower, the restroom would be very cold. And in South Texas, the houses sit about, let's say, 1.5 2 feet off the ground. And so the pipes would freeze. So we would fill up just 5-gallon buckets or something, so that we would have water. And then my mom would heat the water on the stove so that we could take showers with. And she would take my clothes that was already ironed into this back room that had zero heating whatsoever, and she would iron my clothes and then rush it to me so that I would put it on when it was still warm. She would do that with my pants and my shirt. Just breakfast, lunch I would do at school unless it was the weekend. But breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and my friends and I would go till today. The guys still even ask me, hey, my mom's passed. She passed due to cancer now going on 2 years ago. And they'll still ask me, hey, bro, some freaking apple pie would be badass, huh? My mom would make apple pie. It always seemed like, she kept like 6 apples just to make the damn apple pie. Because we would be out fishing or at a quinceañera or something, and it would be midnight, man. And we would get there, or I'd call her from another friend's house or something, and we didn't have cell phones, and
we're en route.
Yeah. And hey, mom, are you able to make an apple pie? And pues déjame ver, let me check. And sure enough, man, by the time we got there, it would be made, and we'd all get into that apple pie with some ice cream. And I mean, there was like 6, 7 of us that would show up. So,
did you ever think, like, even before picking up the phone and calling, did you ever think like, Mom's probably doing this right now or doing that right now? She's probably even tired after, you're saying she was big in the service, and that's how she would, she would show love and affection, which is huge, man. But she might at that point be extremely tired, but she would still say yes, let me get it done.
Yeah. And then as her only child, man, my mom would go to the ends of the earth for me, bro. I mean, she lived longer. They gave her 3 months to live, and she lived 1 year and 3 months. And I want to say that a big part was because of me, just to hang out. She had me in that year more than she had me around in the past 20. So it was nice, I got to sleep beside my mom. And we would have our conversations. And I got to go with her to every one of her chemotherapies. She ended up in the hospital several times, and I was able to be there with her every one of those times. So
I'm sure that was tough, man. I'm sure that was a tough time. You've really taught me a lot about showing love to my mom. I don't want to make this about me or anything, but you have taught me about that. And moms are very special. They hold a very special place in our heart, and they selflessly live for us. And I think we need to appreciate that at a higher level. And I can see how, those were some painful times for you, because now you've made it very clear to me how special and how important a mother is in a children's life, in a child's life. So I thank you for that, man.
Yeah, brother.
I really do.
You know, like I always say, man, that, and it's starting to change because I think I'm just gonna restart it. This is too good of a fucking show to be.
So,
Say it.
in the last week, I mean, things are starting to change because in the last week, I've read the 4 agreements like, twice, and I'm on my 3rd time. And I'm not a reader, but all I have is my experience, and so I've experienced a lot of pain in my life, and you know, if I can prevent other people from going through that, then if they're willing to accept it, I'll give them a hand in that way with my knowledge of what, you know, it's going down a particular route. If I've been down that route, then, you know, they know that it might not be the best one for them, you know. Becoming a youth mentor and you know, like having the opportunity to talk to the kids in the high schools and stuff like that, it's been great because, you know, I've had both sides of it. When I was in school, I had that chance to be on student council when my grades were straight A's, and then I can also talk to those that, you know, have it rough where they're from, because I couldn't play football on the street that I was raised unless I got into a fight. And so,
Why?
because I was the new kid on that block. And all these guys, their families all knew each other. And so they couldn't, so I was different. You know, I'm very light complected. These guys were, you know, just straight Hispanic, straight Mexican. And they were also like migrant families, so they all traveled together.
Yeah.
And they knew each other really well. So in order for me to get out there and play as well, there was always somebody who wanted to freaking challenge me.
Yeah.
And so luckily I had gotten interested in learning martial arts, and I would cut the yard. I would cut the yard outside the dojo so that I could go to taekwondo. So I could go to taekwondo classes, and that's where I got, you know, professional experience. And so it made being able to play football on the street a little easier. And I remember my dad was out horseback riding. He was out horseback riding and with a friend, and I became really good in taekwondo, and so one of these times I'm there playing football, and you know, I mean, you trash talk, you know, and so
We don't usually do that.
no, especially not on the street, right?
Yeah.
And so then an argument had come up, and these were all family that are there on this block, and so my dad's horseback riding, and he's coming up, and so all the kids, they're from the neighborhood, and there was a lot of us, and there's like a circle, right? And we're in the ditch because it rains a lot, and so there's these little ditches that run on the side of the street, and me and this guy are in the ditch, and so, like, you know, we both kind of like get up, and he's tired and I'm tired, and you know, our faces are red where we've been beating each other, and my dad's on top of the horse, and he's looking over all the kids. Him and a friend of his are looking from their horses, and so then he says, "Mijo, ven pa acá." He's like, calls me over, so I go over there, and he's like, "What's going on?" Like, you know, like he seems like he's getting over on you, like, what's going on? And I said, "Dad, he's the third guy." He's the third guy that I fight. So I'm tired. So it taught me how to be, you know, brave and stand up for myself. And so yeah, so that's how, you know, slowly I gained respect there in the neighborhood, and you know, luckily I didn't have to play with them all the time, but when I first arrived in the neighborhood, I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any other friends, and because I was an only child, I was looking
For companionship.
Yeah, for someone to hang out with, you know.
Yeah.
And just because, you know, my mom was there, and my dad wasn't, so I just started spending a lot of time by myself. And right behind my house, there's an airport, kind of like the crop duster kind.
Yeah.
And so I would go back there and walk along the landing strip, and just take my BB gun out there and shoot around and stuff. So yeah.
You talk about your past, and you do have a lengthy background, you know.
Yeah.
So I want to go to, you graduate high school.
Finally. You
know, you had your past there, but you end up deciding to somehow, a conversation between you and your father, of, you know, if you want to do this long term, you want to be a musician, and you want to scale your business, you know, say goodbye to your family. So you end up deciding after that conversation to go to the Marine Corps.
Yep.
How was that experience, being in the Marine Corps?
Man, it was amazing. So what had happened was that I had already graduated. I was playing Tejano music. We were a great band, and I got this wild hair that I wanted to join the Border Patrol. I was working at HEB, and I'm working at HEB, and I'm gigging. So I didn't want to be at HEB forever. now I wish I would have invested in HEB back then, because
look at what they've become.
Jesus Christ.
El
Heb. Yeah, El Heb. So I'm working at these. I'm doing these two things, and so I took the Border Patrol test, and I failed it, and so I had heard that if you go to the military, 4 years will allow you 10 extra points on that test. So
your intentions were never to go to the Marine Corps?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. I just needed the 10 extra points.
Right.
So then I said, all right, well, let me go to the Marine Corps, and I'm going to go to the Marine Corps because it's the baddest motherfuckers there is.
I was going to ask, why the Marine Corps?
Because it was the baddest motherfuckers. And I had the example of my cousin that I looked up to that had gone to the Marine Corps, right?
Yeah.
So it turns out that he also became a Border Patrol agent afterwards, but he was in the Marine Corps for many years.
And how older was your cousin?
He, I believe, my 43, he's like about 58, I think, or maybe 55, somewhere in there. So, and especially back in the old days, man, like that was huge. Like that age gap, even if it was like, let's say, even if it's like 8 years or 9 years, 10 years, back then, that's like, they're old, you know?
Yeah.
But he's always been someone that everyone in the family kind of looked up to as, man, he's doing well for himself.
Yeah.
And I had asked him, and I said, hey, I'm going to go to the Marine Corps. What job do you think I should ask for? Mm-hmm. I hope this doesn't offend some freaking Marines out there, but it's gonna.
Yeah.
And he said, well, whatever you do, man, like, don't join the Marine Corps to go toot a horn. If you're gonna fucking join the Marine Corps, bro, be the heart of the Marine Corps and go infantry. And I said, all right, good to go. Let's go. So I went in infantry, and then while I was in, I guess I was at my scores actually were through the roof. My ASVAB scores were great. I had the opportunity to do anything that I wanted in the book, anything except for fly. I asked when the recruiter, he threw the book on the desk, and he said, go through the book. You can do anything.
Whatever.
And I said, what about fly? And he's like, no, that's the one thing you can't do. You have to go to college for that. I was like, damn it. So then I said, no. I pushed the book away, and I said, hey, I want to be infantry. I have to admit that I had a really good recruiter that was really looking out for me and said, like, no, like, look through the freaking book, man. And so then I told him, I stuck to my guns, man. I said I wanted to be infantry. Then I ended up getting sold on a forward observer for artillery.
Okay.
So I was supposed to be, I don't know because I ended up not doing that. I guess I was supposed to be in front of everyone in some capacity, calling for fire so that they would be able to hit the targets that they wanted to hit. Which would have been pretty cool. But while I'm going through infantry school, to then at some point get sent out to a different school so that I can learn that job, I was asked if I wanted to go and do something else because we had the highest ADVAP scores and we had the highest PT scores in the entire company. So they pulled us aside, and I had the opportunity to become an 03, which is still infantry, but 0313, which was a LAV crewman on a reconnaissance vehicle that was amphibious, which was really neat because we had 4 tires on the thing, and we also had propellers on the back and a trim vane that came up, and we would go into the water and turn the propellers on, and we would take off now. And that's badass. Like it had a freaking 25mm Bushmaster. So like, just so that everyone understands, like we were shooting beer bottle size freaking rounds.
Wow.
So it was really neat. So when I saw that video, they got me at the video, man, and I was like, yeah, I'm down. Let's do this. Yeah. So yeah, man. Got in there, went in, started doing that, and then freaking 9/11 happens, and I thought it was gonna be an easy
when did you go in? What year?
I went in 2000, man. September 17th in 2000. Yeah, where were you in 2000, big dog?
I was in freaking 4th grade, I think. So yeah. I was born in 91. So I was 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. 4th grade.
Yeah.
Just like my son.
Yeah. So so there I am in boot camp in September 17th, man, going into boot camp. I was struck with the reality of the Marine Corps world.
Yeah, because by the way, like, you never joined. For one, you never thought about joining the Marine Corps, and then you join, and then it's like, okay, I'll do my 4 years, I'll get out.
Yeah. But
nobody knew about fucking 9/11.
No, man. And so it happens, and we start doing workups, and we start doing like, we just started increasing, like, the size of the company just started to increase. We started doing all kinds of training, traveling everywhere. I got to go to Singapore. I got to go to Japan. I got to go to Shanghai, China. I got to go to where else? Got to go to Guam. Went to Thailand. Like, went all over the place. And
what is the intention, like, of sending you guys to just terrain, like?
Yeah, to go and get experience in different terrain.
Okay.
So and to start doing, like, combined arms. Okay. Because usually it would be us training out in the desert, mm-hmm. and we're not dealing with anyone else. And if we're all going to be going into war together, then we start, doing operations with, like, the British, or we start doing operations with the army, and so that we can all tie in things.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So we're doing operations out there with on, like, LCACs. So, like, we're coming out the belly. It's like the ships were giving us birth, and we were being birthed out the back of the freaking ship, and this big ass door comes down. It's really interesting because the ship has these ballasts inside that allow the ship to have less buoyancy on the back and more in the front, and it sinks the ship from the back
to allow
water to come into the belly of the ship.
Wow.
And now we're able to come out of the belly on the hovercrafts.
Yeah.
And so, like, on a hovercraft, we had, like, 4 LAVs, and then we had Humvees that were, like, up armored and had, like, all this 50 cals and everything on top. And we would come out on the hovercrafts, and it's just this boat with bags and the fans in the back, and it's just flying over the top of the water. And we would hit the beach, and when we hit the beach, the doors would come down. They would unhook everyone, and we would just get off on the beach. And so now we started working along with the Humvees, which we had never done before. And so now we started coordinating attacks to simulate what we could be doing in the future.
So you guys were preparing for, like, D-Day of the 21st century.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yep.
That's a vivid freaking... And there's many history teachers that would tell us, like, if you guys really want to, like, relive World War II, watch that movie. And that is, like, the most vivid footage that you can see that will make you relive D-Day. Like, yeah. And I intentionally rewatched it with the purpose of, trying to feel that day. There's a lot of weight, you know.
So one of the places that I got to visit was Iwo Jima, and I got to, see the mountain that the flag was raised on. So we hiked up to the top, and they have memorials there for the Japanese and for the American soldiers that passed away. There's still guns, Japanese guns, out the side of this mountain from the fighting holes. And I got to realize just how hard it was for them to even get to land. The closest I've gotten to even experiencing that kind of terrain, I grew up on the ocean. I grew up on the beach. I have never seen a shoreline like the one there. The shoreline there on Iwo Jima is imagine the pebbles that are inside an aquarium being, 5 feet deep, and try walking on those kind of pebbles, because the volcanic rock there it's just like little pebbles. So as you're walking, you're literally sinking as you walk. So imagine these guys with their packs that are 80 pounds, wet, carrying ammo. So on top of the pack, they're carrying ammo. They're going through these Normandy barriers, getting shot at, getting freaking artillery fire as well. I mean, it's ridiculous what they went through to get onto that island, and it's just crazy.
Yeah. Let me reset the camera so we can. It's 11 already. Wait.
Yeah.
You still have your memory card?
Yeah, it's in the camera.
Okay. Why the fuck is this shit? This shit's full, bro. I deleted all the footage.
And still.
How do you feel so far?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Start here. Join.
We do have a memory card in here, right?
Yeah. Put it in there. Yeah, if not, it wouldn't even let me record.
Oh, wow.
It won't let you record, yeah. So, where did you go to Iraq or you go to Afghanistan?
Went to Iraq.
Iraq?
Yeah.
Okay. Afghanistan was later on, like 07?
I think it was 06.
06?
I believe.
Okay.
Maybe even earlier. Maybe 05, 06. I don't know.
So, talk to me about you landing in Iraq. Like what was that experience like?
It was interesting because there was no landing. We went on ship.
Okay.
So it took us like 3 months to get there.
Okay. And you took off from where?
I guess there's a lot of strategy involved. I left from San Diego.
Okay.
And
damn.
And so we get to Kuwait, and we come off the ships in Kuwait, and I don't know, magically our vehicles are there. And so then we go and we drive over to the camp we were going to be at, which I believe was called Camp Cobra, I believe.
Were you guys the first ones to go in, or there was already...
No, so we went over to this camp that's still there in Kuwait.
Okay.
And so then little by little,
you start
more people start to arrive.
Okay.
And more people start to arrive.
Okay.
And then we started pushing out, and we started setting up like security along the Iraq and Kuwait border.
Mm-hmm.
And we were, we were sitting around freaking finding out what to do in the desert besides clean your weapons all day.
Yeah.
Sitting in a...
How long were you guys there before it was time? Like, you guys actually, the first strike?
I don't know. I honestly can't remember. It might have been, I don't know, maybe a month and a half.
Wow.
I'm just assuming. And it might have been like 2 weeks. It felt like a month and a half. But yeah, we were there, and we didn't want to sleep in the hooch, or it's like a big, just a long tent. And they're big, but it's a long tent, and everybody just sleeps there along the wall or whatever. But there was camel spiders that would come out. I mean, those suckers are big. They're, bigger than your hand, including like the legs and stuff. And they would just run across the walls of the tent. So, and it was really dark in there. We didn't have, we couldn't use really big generators or anything. So I don't know how it was working. Like, we just didn't have a lot of equipment there at the time. And so we'd have like the door open in order to have a breeze. Like, there was no air conditioning, none of that stuff. And so we'd be hanging out in the vehicles. And then, like, I remember this, we started playing football with a sock. And so there we are. And this other friend of mine, he jukes the hell out of the freaking guy in front of him, and he breaks his shin, whatever that is, his tibia or whatever. Like, he broke his shin. And so, and this guy was a real like motivator. He's still a real big motivator. He owns a air conditioning company in Arizona now, called Semper Fi Heating and Cooling, I believe.
Okay.
But he and that was as close as he got, which sucked, especially for like, us that are like gung-ho at this point. We've been training. And as Marines, like, all you want is to go and freaking
get some action,
devour whoever you're going up against.
Yeah.
And here we are, in Kuwait, wasting time, and as simply as running in the sand, and he'd pulls a little juke and
that
quack!
happens.
Yeah, and there goes. So now he's getting transported to freaking Germany, and we don't see him again.
Wow.
And so then freaking Scuds go over our freaking heads. Scuds missiles get shot from Iraq, and they land in the freaking desert there. We didn't get to see them, but like they landed somewhere off in the desert, and so they weren't sure if they were gonna be, if they were gonna have, you know, gas or some sort of chemical. So here we all are gassing up and getting into mop gear. And so if you've never been around mop gear, you don't know what it is. It's like these really thick jackets and pants and rubber boots that you have to strap on a certain way so that you don't get any contamination underneath the suit. And then you have to put in the gas mask, and you know, it's like high altitude training type shit, and sweating up a storm. We're in the freaking desert wearing like winter
Gear.
clothes pretty
Oof.
much. And so it was miserable. So then we go and finally, I think I have a photo of where it was like March 18th at the time in 2023. And so we're there on the border to go into Iraq, and we took a vehicle picture for the crew picture. And I think that was on the 18th of March, right before we went in. Man. Yeah.
Wow. So, would you say that despite, and it's just crazy how life happens, right? But despite the Marine Corps never been something that you aspired to be as a child, because you do have the kids that tell you, like, I'm gonna go to the military. What branch? I don't know yet, but you know, I ran into a few of those in school. I do remember. But despite that not being what you intended to do, and then, you know, then now you do find yourself as a Marine Corps, would you consider that to have been like the most transformational experience, or impactful piece or part of your life?
I think so, because I wasn't a bad kid, but I was lazy, and I didn't really have a sense of pride. There was no real goal in life, and going to the Marine Corps taught me a lot about just leadership. So
What about commitment? Did it teach you?
Oh my God, bro, there was no getting late anywhere. You know, it was 15 minutes early. We used to run. I remember and now I wish I could go back and like measure how far it was that we ran, because the what was it called? I can't remember, but where we staged our vehicles, I can't remember at the time, but where we had the vehicles on base was a lengthy ways from where our barracks was at. And out of nowhere, you know, things change, and instead of it being at 8:30, now it was at 8, and here we are hauling ass to get there. And so yeah.
So before we move on from the Marine Corps, is there any experience that you can remember that you still carry till this day, and that you say, I will carry this one, and it positively impacted my life, and I would have never learned it if it wasn't for the Marine Corps, that you now apply in life?
I think leadership, pride, valuing yourself, your abilities, your capabilities are big. appearance, trying to be as ready as you possibly can, being I guess I shouldn't say being, but how do I say it? Not giving in easily. Being vicious, being fucking vicious, and not giving up. I can go on with so many things that you embrace the suck, man. It fucking sucks. You're out there 126 degrees wearing mop suits, and you make a little canal under your vehicle so that you can crawl to the shade because there's no shade anywhere else.
Yeah.
You freaking wrap your water bottle in a sock and wet the sock so you can spin the hell out of it and cool the sock down to then cool your water down just a little bit to get it down from almost boiling, So going through all that stuff, man, attention to detail, something as simple as a damn iris pennant, on a shirt or a suit. There's just so much that the freaking Marine Corps teaches you. And I really didn't have any of that prior to that, I wasn't a bad kid, but I didn't have anything to shoot for in life.
Yeah, I can see that. Women usually do have like a pathway to teach them or transition them from, being, young girls to now being adults. They, their breasts start to grow and now they start to go through their menstrual cycle and all that. But men don't really have like a passage, from being a young boy to then being an adult. And, that's sometimes that something I wish I would have done, because I think it would have allowed me to, in a sense, go through that rite of passage, of going. The military definitely does that to you.
Yeah.
It does instill those values, and it's like a rite of passage for men, But so then the Marine Corps is over.
Yeah.
And now you have what you want.
Well, I had to go get that.
Okay.
Right? So I had to sign up for the freaking Border Patrol.
All right.
I've got my 10 extra points, and now I got to go pass a damn test. So I went and I tried out again, and luckily I passed. Yeah, nice. I don't even know what I ended up scoring.
You didn't even
my
need
10
those
extra points.
No.
I don't know if I did or I didn't.
Right.
I don't know if I passed by the skin of my teeth. I don't know.
They rounded up,
right? Yeah.
We're gonna have to round up. And so how was the experience there at the Border Patrol?
It was awesome. I was a section leader for. It's weird, I guess. These guys have experience in at the academy, so the border patrol agent shows up. It's already like I'm back in Marine Corps because they're yelling at us all over again. Get the hell off the bus, and we line up outside, and then they go through and they say, who's former military, and they start raising their hands, and then they asked what branch I was in. And I said I was in the Marine Corps. And so they said, all right, come on over here, stand in the front. I'm going to give you a try. And so I was the section leader in my class. And the last week before graduation, I had to take a test. And I was struggling on my grades. I, had to make sure that everyone was where they had to be. So I'm running around the barracks, making sure that people aren't drunk, making sure that people aren't making babies, making sure that, making sure that people aren't doing stupid stuff, trying to jump off the third floor of the freaking barracks that we're at. Just so much. And so my instructor was looking out for me and said, hey, you've been one of the best I've ever worked with, and I'm looking out for you, and I want to take this responsibility away from you, so that you can do well on your exam. And so they put someone else into my position, and I was able to just focus on
your test,
on my exam, and luckily I was able to pass. So,
wow. Are you? Because I'm a horrible test taker.
mm-hmm.
Has that messed with you, like with your life?
So I'm an amazing test taker, bro, and that's not me boasting. My grades were horrible in school. I wouldn't apply myself, but I had some of the highest. Like at the time, it was like your task scores, and they were the highest in the class. And the teacher would make jokes because he'd say, you can't freaking pass the class, but the highest in the class, was Rene Atkinson. So yeah, it's always been something that I was good at, except for the first time I took the damn border patrol test, I guess.
No, I'm and still till this day, I just don't get the way they formulate these tests, because my point is, and I was talking to some friends over the weekend. There's this gal who's trying to go to nursing school, and when they do these tests, it's like, okay, read 50 chapters, and then we're going to choose 10 questions of the information that was within these 50 chapters,
mm-hmm.
and then we'll test you that way.
Yeah.
Okay. And my thought process is, when it's the real deal, when you're in the emergency room and there's an emergency surgery happening, you don't have time to go through 50 chapters to find the right answer. Just give me the information that I have to learn, and let's go about it that way. Like,
yeah.
Why do we have to make it so difficult? Why do we have to make it so, I'm going to trick you? I'm going to put a few answers in there that are wrong. And why don't we just make it easier and teach me what I have to learn? Like, what do I have to learn? This? Fine. That way I can get better at that, instead of being better at strategically figuring out how I'm going to, pass this test. That's one thing I hate about school. Just give me the information that I need. Why make it so freaking difficult? And I always had a very hard time.
If imagine if every career path was that way. You want to become a nurse, then let's just give you the classes that you need to become a nurse. But it's not. You're like taking like university 101. Like, what am I doing with the university? Like, what am I doing with all these other classes that have nothing to do with nursing? If I'm going to be an engineer, whoa, you got to do all these things. Wait, what? Why am I doing those when I want to become an engineer? I don't know.
So getting back to you, how do we go from, okay, we're at the Marine Corps,
Mm-hmm.
we're at the Border Patrol.
Yeah.
I understand you got, medically retired. And then how do we go from, after being medically retired, how did you figure out, okay, I'm going to go to culinary school, I'm going to, be a welder, I'm going to be a barber?
Yeah.
Like, what was happening during that time? Like, why did you choose all that stuff?
Because I didn't know who the hell I was, to be honest. I had to find myself, and I'm still fucking looking, bro. Every day, still freaking searching. So yeah, the only thing I wanted to do was be a Border Patrol agent, and I wanted to, continue going up. I was applying for everything I could. I did firearms instructor. So I became a firearms instructor in the Border Patrol, and then I did horse patrol, and then I tried out for BORTAC, and while I'm going through the in-doc for BORTAC, I had this ridiculous pain under my rib, and it felt like every time I breathed, I was getting punched in like the liver or something crazy. And we're doing all this running and all kinds of stuff, and we end up going and we get into the swimming pool. We're supposed to swim in our swim across 250 meters. And so I'm doing that, and the pain is ridiculous. And so eventually I was like, I can't keep a breath in me. So it's becoming really difficult to swim when I can't even get a breath because of the pain being so severe. So I go over to the edge of the swimming pool, and the instructor's going off on me, and I get out of the pool, and he says, what's going on? I said, I don't know. I've never felt anything like this. So luckily my girlfriend at the time had enough, I guess, and said, let me go sign you up so that you can get checked. And so she did great, because it turned out that I had cancer, and I had a tumor in my kidney. So this is like on a Thursday, and I think it was more like on a Wednesday, and the doctor says, well, it was interesting because nothing ever happens whenever you go to the doctor. You go and, oh, there's nothing wrong, or oh, you go
Tylenol, ibuprofen.
Yeah, it's never a big thing. And so this time I go, and I'm supposed to get my results, and the doctor, I go into that little room, and the doctor comes in, and he says, did you come alone? And I said, yes. He says, I wish you didn't. And he threw a file on the little table where you sit down on top of. He said, I wish you didn't. He threw the file. He went back out the door, and I said, I don't know what this is about. And then I remember by this time phones existed. And so I call my girlfriend, and I'm like, hey, he came in and he said this. I don't know what's going on. He comes back in and he says, hey, we found a mass. I'm not that kind of doctor. I'm an infectious disease specialist. I don't know about that stuff, so I can't say much. So when I kind of gathered that it was maybe a little serious was when he pulled his cell phone out of his pocket and said, I want you to go see a doctor here down the road. And he called him to his personal phone and said, hey, I need you to see somebody. He's on his way over there. And he gave me a little CD and a file. And he said, go on down the road. And so I called my girlfriend back, and I said, hey, they gave me a CD and said I have a mass. And so I went down the street. I waited for her to get there, and she got there, and we went inside, and he was like a he was a former like colonel in the military, and I can't remember what branch. And he was like really straight. He was no messing around. And he said, you know what, come on over with me. There's no need to wait. Let's go over to this little room. We got a little computer here, and we'll be able to pull the image up, and let's see what we got.
Yeah.
So he pulls up the image, and he says, well, I'm not a gambling man, but if I was, I would put this on cancer. So I said, all right, well, now what happens? And he says, well, we're gonna have to do surgery. I said, okay, what exactly is gonna happen? He's like, well, I'm gonna remove your kidney because luckily, the kidney's expanded because of the size of the tumor, but it's still encapsulated.
Yeah, it hasn't.
Yeah, so we want to keep it there.
Okay.
He said, there's no need for me to go in there and do a biopsy, and then now I'm exposing you to the cancer. Mm-hmm. So he says, we'll just go ahead and remove it. You'll be fine. You'll live off of one. I said, all right, could it go?
That easy, huh?
Yeah, that easy. So it's like Wednesday, and he says, I said, okay, so like when do we do the surgery? He's like, Friday. I'm like, wait, like that's just like 2 days from now. And I said, my work doesn't know. I need to see if I can get days off. I need to do all this stuff. And he's like,
that doesn't even matter. Yeah,
I'm sure we'll take care of everything. I was like, oh my God. So then I said, well, does it have to be Friday? And he's like, okay, we'll do it Monday. I was like, all right, thanks, man. You gave me a few more days. I remember came out of there, went over to a pizza joint. I had never had a dark beer before in my life. And I said, you know what, give me a dark beer because it's probably not something I'm going to be able to have in the future. So I had a dark beer there. And on Monday, I was back in for surgery.
You're on the table.
Yeah. But yeah, so whenever I was in the Border Patrol, you know, it was all I wanted to do. I was taking all the proper steps that I needed to go up the chain of command and hopefully end up in Washington someday or something like that. And you know, after that, I decided I was going to go into bike patrol, and then I busted my arm. And so after that, I had no idea what I wanted to do because that was all I wanted to do. And I didn't have any college experience. So I had nothing to fall back on. And that's why I encourage kids nowadays, go to school, man. Even if it's going to go and get a degree in something you like, because even if that's not the path you end up being on later on, it's something you can fall back on to get you back on your feet whenever that maybe doesn't pan out. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So then I was trying to find myself, man, decided to go to culinary school and went and did that. And at the same time, I started a barbecue company. So
you did that first, right? Like you left the Border Patrol and then immediately you went to culinary school?
Yeah. So shortly after went into culinary school. And then while I was in culinary school, we started like working on our project on what you were going to create. So let's just start working on it right now.
Okay.
So it was like, okay, well, let's start doing all the research and let's start doing all this stuff. So, luckily for me, I had the help that I had been saving money because I had that job. So I had some money saved. So I pulled some money out and ended up buying a food truck. So while we were creating the restaurant that we wanted to in culinary school, I was actually doing it, you know. So then I was able to get the food truck, and then my wife and I started going in and competing professionally with all the guys from like Pit Masters and all them that were on TV that I had been seeing. So I kind of took a liking to the barbecue world. And so while I was going to school, I was doing this. So then I started teaching classes in culinary school to teach about doing barbecue and what I was doing. And so everything that we would like do in culinary school, I would then tie it around to culinary school. I mean, to a barbecue.
Right.
And so did well with the barbecue company. And then, luckily got the opportunity. We were struggling because the kids were really young, and then we were sitting them like on top of the ice chest that was inside the food truck, and here we were.
At this time, you had how many kids?
I had two. Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, one came, and then in all that, like the second one came, and so Michelle's pregnant and inside the truck, and I would focus on all the protein, and she would focus on like the sides. And so that became hard. And then there we were struggling financially because I didn't have the money I was making before. You know, I went from making Is that on my memory card?
Yeah. No, it's a recording time.
Oh, okay. And so then, you know, we're struggling because, you know, I had a 6-figure job, and now I'm going from 6 figures to like
entrepreneurship.
Yeah. So I'm making hardly anything.
Yeah.
There was like 4 months for the transition that I made $0 because I was transitioning from, I can't even remember anymore, like the federal pay to now transitioning to OPM or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't receive a paycheck. So we had to be really careful. And I think my wife even got onto like food stamps, and we got onto that. And so it was really difficult. And then, you know, we've got a newborn, and now my wife's now pregnant, and because we had them back to back, like they're Irish twins, you know, like they're 12 months apart.
Wow.
So then, like, you know, she's pregnant, we're in the vehicle, we're having to drive places, her feet are swollen, she's got a bad attitude, she's hot, she's everything else. She's standing on her feet, long hours, dealing with the customers, and I'm cutting it up and so forth. I'm cutting the meat up, and then we'd get home and there was no break because it's a 12-hour cook at least on brisket and pulled pork and pork ribs and beef ribs and all this stuff, making potatoes. So I had to get out from the event that we were at to get back home, to start cooking, and to be up all night so that I could be, and I still had to trim the meat. So beside the 12-hour cook, I still had to trim all the stuff that I was going to be making. So I was making like 15 briskets. So it was something else. So it had become difficult, and then we were approached by this father and son that came down from Oregon and asked if, you know, we were interested in them buying the food truck. And so we said yeah. So we named a price, and I helped them out with how I was cooking, and then they hauled the freaking truck off to Medford, Oregon, and ended up over there. I got to see them once after that, which was really neat, out of coincidence.
Right.
And so it was really neat. And I was back to, I have no idea what the hell I'm gonna do. You know, I didn't have the money to go, or the knowledge that I have now of what it took to open a freaking brick and mortar location.
Yeah.
It was impossible to me at the time. Freaking impossible. There was no one that was going to loan me anything. And that was the only way. That was the only thing I knew. And I wasn't earning what I used to earn. I had all kinds of bills that had piled up suddenly because at the time it was comfortable. It was comfortable debt. Now it was no longer comfortable debt. So I didn't have a bank that was going to loan me anything. And I had no way to do it, according to me then.
Yeah.
So that's as far as that went. And then I had been the barracks barber since September 17th, 2000. So we were in Iraq, and I was cutting people's hair with freaking hand shears, like a sheep, you know, type shears.
Yeah.
And there I was freaking cutting people's hair. And so I, on ship, you know, I was in the freaking barbershop in there freaking cutting everybody, including the captains and the freaking captain of the ship. You know, I did it all, and I had no idea how to do it, you know, but I was just, all right, well, let's do it. I know it's got to look good, so let me just try to make it look good.
Yeah.
And so I decided, all right, well, let me go and try barber school. So I went and I tried barber school, and then I enjoyed it, and I was using my GI Bill at the time. I still had GI Bill available, and so I decided that I want to stay, and I wanted to become a barber instructor now. So I stayed and continued, and went through the schooling for to become a barber instructor as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and that just opened doors. Just ended up freaking getting hired by that company to now move out to Pecos and open a barbershop there for that federal facility. And now we were cutting hair in the barbershop for 1,300 children and like 1,200 staff, 1,200 staff.
Wow.
So that was something else as well. That was, and then everything just opened doors. And so, yeah. And
then from there you went to welding school?
Yeah, well, before all that. So you're right. So before going to barber college, in between there, I went to welding school. So then I ended up going to Western Tech, and I had an interest in welding, and so I said, all right, well, I'll end up in the oil field somewhere, and I'll go do that. So I started welding school again on the GI Bill, and I finished that. Ended up graduating top of the class. We called ourselves, it was 3 of us that graduated magna cum laude, and we had our little ropes, and we had no idea what the little ropes signified because we weren't into that. But hey, cool, we've got these little ropes around our neck. And so then we called ourselves the 1%ers because we were 1% short of getting the 100 in class, because our freaking instructor, man, was like, y'all are students, and because you're students, I'll never give you 100. So we were like, man, we were the 1%ers because we can never get a freaking 100 in class. We were 1% shy. But yeah, so learned to weld, man. It was amazing. I really enjoy welding still till today. And but my wife didn't want me to go out to the freaking oil field. I was going through a lot, emotionally and physically. The Marine Corps was something else on my body, on my mind. And so now that I didn't have the Border Patrol, like, it exacerbated everything that hadn't been addressed in the past. Yeah. And so all this just started like kind of like in a swamp where you see the mud and you push on the mud and the water just starts to consume you. It just starts going, the mud starts sinking and everything that's underneath just starts coming up to the top. That's how everything just started to affect me. And so it became very difficult. And so she said, I don't think that you going out there is the best. You're going to be out there with 21-year-olds, and it's going to become really difficult, and it's going to be difficult for the family. So, oil field workers do have it very tough, and my hat goes off to all those guys that are out there. Yeah. And so I ended up just with more knowledge, and I didn't go out there. I helped out in town, and I get odd jobs helping out. And most of the time, it was more just helping out friends and family, man. Yeah. Don't worry about it. You've got an issue. I'll come around and I'll fix it for you. So, and then came barber college after that.
Yeah. So you're here now.
Yeah.
You obviously experienced some pain, and I can see it there during your time in welding. Do you consider where you are today in life already a place where you have been able to leave all that behind, or are you still working on that?
I think I'm in the best place I've ever been.
Okay.
Because everything that I went through in combat in the Marine Corps was just being suppressed by the Border Patrol.
Okay.
I was able to cope really well with my trauma because I was, in a sense, still able to be in the Marine Corps. I was still in the bush. I was still in the vehicle. I was still armed. I was still of service.
Yeah.
And so whenever I no longer had that, then
that's when
it just came in. Yeah. And there was nothing wrong with me. And we all say that, there's nothing wrong with me, but my wife was dealing with the nightmares. My wife was dealing with I was trying to strangle her. So one night, I don't even know what happened, but I ended up on top of her and I was literally strangling her. I mean, do you imagine, bro, if I'd have actually killed her? What was I gonna say to a courtroom? I don't know. What the fuck happened? Let me go? I swear I don't know. So yeah. So there was a lot of demons that hadn't been dealt with, and so I guess I was acting out in my sleep, and I was having nightmares, and I'd be, it was difficult, and not so much for me, right? But what fault does a spouse have, whether that be male or female, right? Because there's a lot of female military members that go through stuff afterwards, and whoever you marry didn't sign up for that shit.
Yeah.
And so it was something else. It was something else, bro.
But I mean, are you better now?
Yeah, I'm in the best place that I've ever been. I'm getting seen. I get treatments. I'm on medication. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm fulfilled. I've got a loving wife. I've got a beautiful family. And now everything I've been through in life is something that I see as a teaching tool and something that I now have in my backpack for not only myself, but for other people, Now I can deal with the former company that I was with. I was able to relate with employees.
Yeah.
When they'd come over, sit down in my office and tell me about, their issues, I was able to, first and foremost, just fucking listen.
Yeah.
Like maybe I couldn't, understand
exactly
everything, but
at least I can listen.
I can freaking sit here and listen because, man, let me tell you, I've had hundreds of hours where somebody sits across from me and just freaking listens.
That's it.
So I don't think, a lot of people have just that opportunity. So just sitting across from them and letting them vent, and if they wanted to cry, then go ahead. If you want to laugh, then we can do that too. But I'm here for you, because I've been in the freaking suck, and I empathize and I sympathize with you. I'm here. I got you. So yeah, it has put me in a hell of a better place, man. And that's what we got to do in life, is just look back at all the fucking things that we've been through and use them as freaking teaching tools, and not say, oh, I've had this horrible freaking life. And yeah, but you're here right now, bro. And you got some experience somewhere along the way, whether your freaking father was banging your freaking head across the freaking wall all the way down a freaking hallway. Yes, that fucking sucks, and I don't condone it. But you know what? That's experience that you got, that now you can either teach your children, hey, this is not how I'm going to treat you. This is how I was treated. You have it a lot better than I do. And like, I don't want to teach you this way. I don't want you to get that way. Don't be this way. Like, there's so many things that you learn, you know? It's like, I'm not going to follow the same footsteps that my father followed. There's so many things, man. You can be a freaking drug addict, man, and you can go through what you go through, and you're here today still. Like, you've recovered that. You're no longer there. Like, there's still a purpose for you. And if you want to suddenly end up in freaking college and go get a damn degree that's going to now make you a mental health provider, then great. Go and freaking see a bunch of other people that you're going to be able to say, I understand where you're at, man.
Yeah.
Like, you see me now, bro. You want me to show you the fucking tracks? Like, I've got the tracks, you know? I've been there, big dog. Like, I got you. You don't want to go down the road that you've been on. I'm a testimony to that. I can tell you, you know, there's better. You still got a future. You're still here today.
Yeah.
You're not freaking 6 feet under yet.
Yeah.
You keep going down the route you're going down, you might end up there. You know, but but that person is able to say, I've got this experience, man. I got you, and you're gonna resonate with people. You're gonna be able to understand them and speak to them and help them out. And that's what we a lot of times need, man, is that person that's fucking real. Don't put me in front of somebody that's freaking had a silver spoon or a golden spoon in their freaking mouth, never known the freaking suck, and try to understand you. And try to tell you what the fuck you got to do about yourself. Are you serious, bro? What the fuck do you know about life if you haven't really lived it?
Yeah.
Great, bro. I'm so glad that you got the experience that you got off of the knowledge that you got in college. I'm glad. But sit there and listen to a bunch of us so that you can get the knowledge that you need. Because right now you're not there.
Yeah.
You know? And it sucks that we've been there. We've lived it. It sucks, but and it's not against you either, but sit back before you freaking tell me what I've got to do and how I've got to do it and how I need to just just forget about it. You need to stop thinking that way. What the fuck you mean I need to stop thinking? Help me fucking stop doing that shit. Can you help me there? Because if I knew how to do it, then I'd have done it. And if it was that easy, we would all fucking do it. So it's not that easy. So I don't know what they taught you wherever you were at, but it ain't like that, man.
Yeah, and that's as simple as understanding that the first thing is, bro, it's a process, okay? And it's not going to be a one session, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, dude, it's going to take time, man.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's the first thing that needs to be left clear.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to happen tomorrow.
It's not.
It's gonna take a little bit. It's not just like I'm gonna forget about it today and that's it. No, you know, it takes time. I want to open up this or close this show actually by giving you the opportunity. This recording, eventually we won't be here, you know, where it all come to an end, but this video will still be around.
Yeah.
So I want to open up the ability for you to, if there's one thing or two things that you could tell your children, because of your experience and because of what you've done, because of what you've overcame, and what's still left, because we're gonna build some amazing shit. But what would you tell your children that they need to carry on with them for the rest of their life?
I would say that they're a lot more intelligent and capable than they think they are. Not to give up. I would say a big lesson for me has been, don't procrastinate because of fear of not knowing what you need to do. Start doing it and you'll figure it out along the way. And then I'm already so proud of him.
That one's even making me choke up. I think we forget to tell our children that.
Yeah, man, it takes a lot to be a kid nowadays, bro. Because not only do they have to struggle through not having the mother and father around because they're providing a living for them, but they also have to battle the cell phones in their hand. And so the kids really struggle to have that one-on-one time. And a lot of the times, man, that's all they freaking really need. Uriah, he wants to have blackouts. He wants to have the lights, the power go off.
Yeah.
Because then we're all going to get together and freaking play a board game.
Yeah.
So then we're going to have time. Then I'm going to have your time because you're not going to be able to do that or this or that or that. You're going to be right here and we're going to have a candle and we're all going to be together and we're going to play a board game. So, man, so much of the time all they want, man, is just to spend time with us.
Yeah.
And
to let they want to know that we're proud of them.
Yeah.
And that got me, man. Yeah, we definitely need to tell our children a lot more often how proud we are of them, because it is harder to grow up in today's world where things are changing at a rapid pace, and there's so much distraction, there's so much information available now at their fingertips, and it's important for us to let them know, hey, you're a freaking warrior, man.
Yeah.
You know, like you're pushing through, you're pulling through these times, and yes, I know I'm here, but at the end of the day, you're the one making the decision. You're the one making the choice to say, nah, I'm not going to give up today. I'm going to wake up another day. I'm going to go to school. I'm going to put up with whatever's happening, even if they're getting bullied, even if they're looking at, stuff they're not supposed to be looking at. They still push through, man. And those are things that, honestly, I didn't have to do when I was a kid. And it's important to bring it up to people's attention and let them know, hey, it is harder to be a kid in today's world. And you should be freaking proud of your kids, because they're teaching you that it's possible. They're teaching you that they're resilient. They're teaching you that they have the power, the courage, man, to push through. And I think that's a great way to really end this show, man. It's rare that I cry, and you choked me up on that one, because it's important that we let our children know how special they are to us, and the fact that, especially, for me anyway, like my children, they really changed my life, man. And, aside from my wife, which is the most precious thing that I have, my children, man, they're very precious, and I love them dearly. And I am extremely proud of both of my kids. So.
Yeah, big dog.
It was a good talk.
Yeah, man. It was a great talk.
Thanks for opening up and,
Yeah.
being honest with us, and letting the listeners tap into a little bit more of who Rene is. And if you did it, they can do it too, man.
Damn straight, bro. So many of us are so freaking able. We just don't put in the time because our mind is a powerful thing, man. And our little voice inside our head is the one that we spend the most time with.
Yeah.
And sometimes, it can sabotage us.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to hold you any longer because I know you and the wife got something special happening this weekend. It's getting close to noon, and you guys have a flight to catch. But I wish you guys nothing but, good vibes. And you guys need to go out there and be where your feet are, like I've always said.
Yeah.
Don't think about anything else. Go spend some time together. And love on your wife, man.
Yeah, brother.
And have a good time out there.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
All right. Well, with that being said, guys, thanks for tuning into the show. We really appreciate you. And I know it was a long episode. It was deep, but I was trying to just bring as much as I could out of Rene and let you guys know what we're all about. If you guys want to really spend time with us and listen to us, and I think it's important for you guys to know where this information is coming from. And the only way to really do that is to, let you guys into our mind and into our brain and into our past and what we've been through. So thanks for doing that today, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all for just getting to know us a little bit better.
Yep. All right. Well, as we always do, remember that, if you don't follow us yet, make sure you go follow us. We're on all the podcast platforms. And if you guys are getting anything from the show, it's making you laugh, if it's teaching you something, make sure to, share it with your family and your friends and let them know, that they can tune in and they can do the same for them as it's doing for you. So with that being said, remember, the price doesn't go to the fastest guy. The price goes to the guy who slows down the least. Keep your back against the wall, stay driven, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Peace.